Welcome to Veterans of the North, a podcast by the DAV of Minnesota, dedicated to empowering all who have served. I'm your host, Trent Dilks. Join me as we explore the impactful stories, programs, and benefits that make a difference in the lives of veterans. In today's episode, we're zeroing in on OIF and OEF veterans. Joining me is my co-host, Mike McKellany, a retired Green Beret who was injured in Afghanistan. We also have a special guest for the first two segments, Jenna Schmidtke. Jenna served in the United States Army from 2006 to 2010 with the 101st Airborne Division, 2nd Brigade as a combat medic, serving in Iraq in OIF 0709, and now works as a County Veteran Service Officer in Faribault County. Welcome, Jenna. In this first segment, we'll be sharing stories of war. This is Veterans of the North. Let's get started. All right, got through that. That was terrible. That's the last part we'll be reading here. Welcome, Jenna. Welcome, Mike. We're have a little conversation here. Yeah, a little conversation about service. So, Jenna, you want to get us started? When did you join the Army?
Sure. Thanks for having me. I joined in 2006 after high school, and went to basic training, Fort Jackson.
Relaxin' Jackson.
Yeah.
Nice, nice.
Wasn't so bad. It was hot, though. Coming from Minnesota, it's a little bit of a transition.
Jackson, is that Mississippi?
Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
Oh, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I went Oklahoma, Fort Sill, so it was not warm in the summer when I went down there. You know, it's a chill 102, 105, so.
No big deal.
Yeah,
humidity.
But I'm sure South Carolina was terrible.
Yeah.
I bet it was awful.
A little swampy.
Yeah. Mike, where'd you go?
Well, I went base training at Fort Benning.
Fort Benning.
Yeah.
Oh.
So infantry, and it gets pretty humid there. But I went in the wintertime, actually, and so we froze as opposed to later when I went back to other schools there, when you get to deal with the summer humidity. It's really nice there.
Did they let you use any of your snivel gear in basic training, or is that some of that off?
I don't know that we had it really in those days. I don't think. All the nice brown, fluffy stuff that keeps you warm. Yeah, we didn't have that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No. When was basic, Mike?
That would have been 1989.
Okay. All right.
Through the winter of January 2000. Well, wait, 89, 90. So January 90, done on my way over to Germany when the wall was coming down.
Okay. All right.
So it was a good time.
All right. And then, so from Jackson, you go AIT as a medic?
Yep.
So is that
Fort Sam Houston.
Texas?
Yeah, San Antonio. That was nice.
And you're there for like 2 years?
Yeah, felt like it. We were there for almost 7 months. We got weekends off and stuff, so that was pretty cool. But you really have to buckle down. Like, we started off with over 500. We were 68 whiskeys. We transitioned into the 68 whiskey before that. I can't even think of what our series was called. I'm having like a total brain fart right now. But we started off with like 500 and then graduated under 200. So it was the, I think, just expedition of the EMT course.
Yeah.
If you failed one mod, you got one chance to retake it. If you didn't, you were done.
Wow.
And reclass at needs of the Army. So.
Truck drivers.
Yeah.
Yep. A lot of fuel specialists and truck drivers coming out of that school. Huh?
Yep. Yeah.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you're sitting there bleeding on the battlefield, the last thing you want is a little oops.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. I just as soon someone who didn't get a third time go. Yeah.
For sure.
Boy, can you imagine that, though? You think you're going to be a medic, and next thing you know, it's like, the Army really needs some 88 mics. Here's how you drive a truck.
Yeah.
Is that what you did? Were you
No,
truck driver?
I was artillery. 13 Bravo. Yeah. No. I was Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I was trained in the field artillery, which was it was interesting. AIT, I think, is another 8 weeks, but it takes about 3 days to learn how to shoot a cannon. And then we have to train with the brains, the people who actually figure out where we point them and how we point them. Mm-hmm. So we learned our job in about 3 days, and then for 7 weeks we scraped floors. And yeah, they give us little razor blades. And every day you'd wake up, you go do PT, then they send you back to the bay and they give you those little razor blades, the little straight razors. And then by hand, you would peel.
This is basic training?
AIT.
Oh, AIT.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. We'd see like the Echoes, the guys, the smart kids. They'd be walking away with like backpacks full of books. And, we'd be like, well, we're going to go scrape floors for another 12 hours today. So
We know at the end of the day, though, we all learn those valuable skills, how to clean floors, how to drive trucks. Even if you're not the professional truck drivers in the military, you'll get behind the wheel at some point till they figure you're unsafe or something. I don't know. But all those good skills.
Yeah, how to sweep dirt onto the dirt.
Yeah.
Later on in my service, I made friends with a TAMS clerk. And somehow I ended up with every wheeled vehicle the Army had on my license.
Yeah.
Never trained on them.
Nice.
But fast forward, we're coming out of Iraq after 16 months, and it turns out I've got 5-ton license on my thing, and I'm like the only guy with it. So like, hey, you're gonna, we're on our way out of Iraq. We're on some base, middle of nowhere that they had Chinooked us to, and they're like, hey, we have to use a 5-ton, and we see you're the guy qualified. They let me drive it once because I was qualified but not capable.
Yeah.
So I got
Never
about
again.
20 guys in the back of that truck, gave them the ride of their life, and never got to drive again.
Well, and that's a good way to get out of it. It's like the bus driver license. Nobody wants to be the bus driver.
Yeah. So fast forward, you've gotten through AIT. It's time for
Yeah.
permanent duty. You're 101st.
Yep. So what came down on orders, everybody, they give you that wish list. I think I put like Italy and Hawaii, and I think I put Fort Carson.
And you got Campbell.
Yeah, they got Campbell. I was like, where's Fort Campbell, Kentucky? I don't even know. So,
Is it at least in the pretty part? I've never been to Campbell. Is it in the
It's
pretty
like
part
barely
of
in
Kentucky?
Kentucky.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the post office address falls on the Kentucky side. So it's like 2% of the post.
And the
is
rest is,
Tennessee.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. But it's like less than 45 minutes from Nashville, so that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Got to.
You're getting in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Printer's Alley.
Yeah.
Mike, you get done down there at Benning. Where do you go?
Yeah, I flew over to Germany, and it was over there for about 5 years, and that was when the first Gulf War, kicked off. I think it feels like it was. Yeah, I was there about 8 months, and then I remember sitting in the, over in the company room, if you will, company headquarters, and a bunch of us were gathered around and watched Bush the first on talking about what's going on, and then everything started ramping up from there, and so that was the first tour, and then only portions of our unit went. We ended up being kind of the trainers for all the stateside units that were coming through to go through one last gunnery down in Grafenwehr. So a lot of our, I was a Bradley guy at that time. A lot of our vehicles were being used, and we were, kind of running everybody through their last ranges before they hit the box. And then some of our folks went, and it was just real intermittent,
Yeah.
We need a platoon here. We need a company there. We need,
That's why they're doing the build-up for the Gulf War. Was that Desert Shield, right? They get a million coalition forces spread out across the Middle East there in anticipation of a fight to clear Kuwait and run them back into Iraq.
Yeah, and so once all that was done and, life progressed, we had a lot of combat veterans come back and, started to get dull in the military again, I guess. At least that was my feeling. And then had a lot of my squad leaders go to Special Forces selection. So I remember Dean Knopfs, he had just come from Ranger Battalion, and then he went to selection, went to 10th Group. And then Roger Woody, his dad was actually a MACV SOG guy, and Roger had just come from Lurch Unit down in Fort Hood, Texas. He was our squad leader. Then he went to selection. Then I got promoted to squad leader, E6, and
so
then
it's
I
time
went
for you to go to selection,
Yeah, so
huh?
it was just kind of a trend.
Yeah. So, and then you're with the 101st. Do you end up going air assault? Is that part of the requirements while you're there?
It was, but we were on an 18-month tour, and I was in between basic and AIT. It was about a year, little under a year. And so by the time I got to Campbell, we were fenced in, so nobody could go to schools. Got to do 30 days down in Fort Polk for JRTC.
Fort Polk. Has everybody here experienced that, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
The
Yeah,
armpit of the
JRTC.
Army.
Oh, my
Talk about
gosh.
swamp.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Beautiful.
love the showers in the bottom of those World War II barracks, where if you turn it on, first of all the water pressure you could ever want. You will remove paint, but the floor, at least in the one I was in, was dirt, and so you just started your legs covered with mud as you tried to get the rest of yourself clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fort Polk, that is a shithole. That's one of our swears, so I'm going to count that one. But boy, is Fort Polk just the worst.
Everybody likes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was terrible. Then came home and geared up, and I turned 21 on August 28th, and then we left less than 14 days after that.
Okay.
Yeah, so got to spend my 21st birthday at home at least, and then the rest of the year in in Iraq. But
I remember my
okay.
my 21st birthday, so my first tour over there. My 21st birthday, I'd actually asked for leave, and I didn't have any family or anything I wanted to visit, so they ask you for a reason, to prioritize you. And I was like, hey, I just would like to be there back in the States, 21 or older. And my command was like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. So they sent me. So I turned 21, and the Army, and it's got a sense of humor. My 21st birthday was also my first convoy up through Baghdad. And so we were on a little post south of Baghdad, and these units would come up, and they didn't want to go north of there. The Air Force and some of those guys, they didn't want to run up. So my very first convoy up through Baghdad and to get to one of those big plush bases where they had like a Burger King and stuff and resupply them with ice cream was my 21st birthday. And we're closed down. There was some blast up the road, and so we're shut down, and I'm just sitting, and it gets past midnight, so it is officially my birthday. And I had a good team leader, though. He came up, and he borrowed a vehicle and came up from the base and gave me a near beer. So,
Yeah.
up in my machine gun
That's
turret, I
cool.
got to drink a near beer on my
right.
21st birthday. And, so they got me.
Yeah, they'll do that. Yeah. Then, we got in the country. I got my tasking, basically. So the MTO, I was under HHC, and then they tasked me out to a line unit, me and another female medic. And so we were kind of, like my squad did a lot of patrolling. We would go out and we would assist a lot in the Haria area. With different, depending on the SIGAX, I think it was beneficial to have a female and a medic. I worked, a lot with the local nationals too, so that was an experience. But it was long.
Yeah.
It was long. Yeah.
Mike,
you go to selection. You're selected. Everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, it went pretty smooth. Got to actually got to Fort Campbell, 5th Special Forces Group, when they were deployed down to Haiti, when Haiti was going on. And they'd been down there a little while, so it was just a couple of weeks. And then immediately, I remember the sergeant major just like, "Are you scared of heights?" I go, "I don't think so." And he's like, "Good, we're going to put you on the mountain team." And then within about 3 weeks, you were training up to go to Colorado to get lead climb certified, where you're climbing, different stuff. I think you had to follow a 5'10" and lead a 5'9", Western 5'9". So that's kind of, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Pretty fun stuff. And then, from there, it was just kind of like go, go, go. I think we were gone, a slow year. Was about 6 months away from home. An average year is about 8 months with schools and different things. And then, it was just kind of all over the place, Middle East, Africa, Europe, stateside, different locations constantly. So it was a good time until 9/11.
9/11
Yeah.
happens. Yeah. And then you deploy over to Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, we were actually in Kazakhstan doing some training on 9/11. And it was interesting because we had heard through their intel, the actual battalion we were working with, that was the first time I heard the word Al Qaeda. Never knew who they were, what it was. But about 3 days prior to 9/11, we got kind of information from their intel folks that Al Qaeda was getting ready to do something big, and we're like, "What? Who? Huh? I don't know who Al Qaeda is." But I remember we were eating dinner in this little pizza shop, which we would go to all the time. This little town in Kazakhstan, and saw it on the news. What was going down, and then we were immediately called, by the embassy and kind of went back into town, away from the military base, et cetera, and tried to get a flight home. We were locked out of the U.S. just like everybody else. Took us about 8 days to get back and sort of repack and re-prep and remember and retrain on things like stingers and red eyes and the different man pads that we had shipped over there in the 80s, and basically got a mission and hit the road.
Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was fast and furious.
Yeah. So you end up doing how long over in Iraq on your tour?
So we were over there. It was an 18-month rotation. They cut it short by 2 months.
Okay.
So yeah, we got
18 months, you said? Oh my gosh.
I know it. So yeah, I didn't get to do a lot of additional schooling,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But yeah, it was an experience. I think by like month 9, you're just kind of checked out. You know.
What base in Iraq?
So we would go. We were kind of mobile. I had a chew at Liberty, and then I had a chew at, I can't think of what it's called. It was North. But a lot of the times we would just go to the different fobs.
Okay.
And that's where we would stay for a certain period of time, depending on the SIGACs, the local SIGACs,
Yeah.
and what was going on and where they needed me and or us. So, yeah.
That was I only knew them by their big base. There was there was BIOP.
Yeah.
And there was Anaconda, and then there was all the little bases around. And then
And when were you there, Trent, again?
I went, 05, 07.
Okay.
Yeah. I ended up, I did 6 months training up in the States, including Fort Polk. And then I did a year. We're packing our bags. And sea bags just waiting to go on.
Were you on the Minnesota, long one?
And
that was almost 2 years? It was definitely 18
it ended up
months.
being 22 months.
Yeah.
And then waiting, and we're not packing our bag. We're not packing our bag. And sure as shit, we got surged on. The president announced that troop surge into Iraq. And I got the scariest orders a person could ever see. You are indefinitely extended in place. No end date.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they just cut an order that said you're staying there until the Army doesn't need you there anymore. And so, yeah, at that point, it had already been 18 months. And then, indefinite extension in place for ended up being another 4 to 5 months. And
that was the longest unit deployed in history, right?
Yeah, since World War II.
Since World War II, yeah.
And then I ended up, being there until, I spent 14 consecutive months outside of the U.S. because I got that early leave because they didn't want me to be 21 back in the States for some reason.
Yeah.
Apparently I had a reputation, well earned. And then,
They didn't want you to come back and...
and never be seen again. Well, we're going to wrap up segment 1 here. You both join me, please, for segment 2. We'll talk a little bit about the end of our combat service and what it was like coming home. And I'm sure that's something both of our listeners will be able to relate to. So, all right, join us here soon for segment 2.